To pay Zeke or not to pay Zeke? That is the question. What's up, y'all? I'm sure y'all have heard, but big news coming out recently about Ezekiel Elliot. Rumor has it that he has told the Cowboys that he will not play unless he gets a new contract at all during the 2019 season. And man, I think it's pretty interesting to see. And we've had multiple holdouts throughout the NFL, most notably Melvin Gordon for the Chargers and Ezekiel Elliott for the Cowboys. And I think something that's kind of interesting is both these guys have time left on their deals. And we'll focus a little bit more on Zeke. Zeke, for the better part of the last 3 years, has been a huge part of the Cowboys' offense. I mean, anybody who's watched the Cowboys knows that they're significantly better with him on the field than without. And in fact, if you look at the numbers, the team's 32-16 of the last 3 seasons. But in the 6 games Zeke missed, they're 3-3. Now I know it's a relatively small sample size, but I mean still 32-16. So that means they're 29-13 with Zeke and 3-3 without him. And so this guy, normally in the NFL, we like to say that running backs don't really have a huge impact on winning. Melvin Gordon, for example, missed 4 games last year. The Chargers won all 4. And so we have this tendency to kind of just throw running backs under the bus and say, they're a dime a dozen, no real need to pay them. And that's kind of been the overarching phenomena I've heard in the media recently is, don't give Zeke the money he wants. I mean, because running backs have such a short lifespan, often what happens in the NFL is teams will play a running back and basically run until their wheels fall off, never give him that second big contract, and then all of a sudden they made decent money because they played in the NFL, but they never got that huge contract because they had to play their first 4 or 5 seasons when they were still really good under a much lower contract. And so what's actually happening here? So Ezekiel Elliott has 2 years remaining on his contract, but what's kind of interesting, especially with running backs, is that with the rookie contracts that we have, teams in essence have control over the first 5 to 6 years of the player. So, for example, Ezekiel Elliott's already played 3 seasons for the Cowboys, and he can now be, I believe he has 2 years remaining on his contract, and then after that, they can franchise tag the running back, meaning that they're forced basically the players to play under a 1-year deal. And so oftentimes in the media, the issue over the holdout for Elliott has been talked about as him just wanting more money. And while that is partially true, I mean, Zeke does probably want to be the highest paid running back in the NFL, probably deservedly so. I mean, argument can be made that he's been the best running back in the NFL over the last 3 seasons. But the bigger issue is the long-term security. From here on out, if Zeke doesn't get a new contract, he's basically playing on 1-year deals. He has 2 years left on this deal, so he's basically playing this year, and I think there's not a ton of guaranteed money in that last year. So if he gets hurt, tears up his knee, he can be cut pretty quickly. Same thing with once he gets the franchise tag. If he gets to the point where he starts getting franchise tag, then he's playing under a 1-year deal, and it doesn't have the long-term security. And one of the big things we see in football is because of the lack of the guaranteed money, if these guys get hurt, they're just cut. And so for Zeke, the most important thing that he can find is trying to get that long-term security and make sure that he's locked in for 4, 5, 6 years, and that he's taken care of even if he tears up his knee, he tears up his Achilles, something like that. And that's what we saw last year with Le'Veon Bell. The Steelers wanted him to play under the franchise tag. They didn't offer him the money he wanted in the offseason, so he was forced to play under the franchise tag, and he said no. If I tear up my knee, then I'm going to be cast off by the NFL tomorrow. And he preferred to sit out and say, I'll just go to free agency and see what happens. And he got rewarded with a relatively big deal. I think a 4-year deal, $50+ million, something like that. And that's exactly what Elliott's looking for. It's not this huge high annual salary that he's looking for, although I'm sure he wants to be up there with the Todd Gurley's of the world. But the most important thing is adding those extra years for security. And so I think it's easy to cast Elliott as the villain in the situation, but he's really just trying to make sure that he can save himself and protect his future, protect his family's future, And so a lot of people are saying he's kind of like casting himself away from the team. He's not, by not showing up at training camp. He's saying he's not a part of the team. But I think that's just patently false. I mean, the NFL has become remarkably safer for almost every position on the football field. Quarterbacks can't even get hit anymore. I mean, Tom Brady's 42 and he's still playing football. I mean, granted, he's an amazing player, puts an incredible amount of time into his body, making sure he's in shape. But players are playing longer and longer. The NFL is getting safer. Receivers can't get hit in the head anymore. There's so much protections that are put into place to make sure that these guys have longer careers and can stay healthy. But that doesn't reign true for running backs. I mean, just by the nature of the position, a running back just gets hit constantly, and there's no real way to protect them. And so, how the rookie scale deals are set up, where these rookie running backs come in and are controlled by teams for 5 and 6 years, it really limits their ability to get that big contract. And that's what Zeke's really trying to circumvent. He's trying to say, hey, I know what happens with running backs when they get older. I want to try and cash in now and get my due. Um, and I think as we've seen, he's been one of those important pieces on the Cowboys, maybe the most important player in the offense. I mean, yes, the offensive line has been incredible that he's been running behind, but you got to give some credit to the running back too. And I mean, Elliott's been nothing short of special in his first 3 seasons. He's led the NFL in rushing twice. I mean, he only in the third season was the season he missed 6 games. And so what he's been able to do, I think, is nothing short of remarkable. And while it may be easy to cast him as the villain, it's important to remember that there's much more to this. It's not just one guy not being with the team and choosing money over being with the team. He's just securing his future for himself, his family, and making sure he can, do his job without worrying about getting hurt. And that's really important. So, anyways, I hope you guys liked my analysis on all this, and just keep all that in mind.